In 1992, a woman named Stella Liebeck sued McDonald's when the cup of coffee she bought from McDonald's burned her lap when she spilled it. The jury awarded her $2.86 million, which was later reduced to $640,000. Now, that case has become famous as an example of what people think of as frivolous lawsuits with huge payouts. But here's the truth. McDonald's handed a 79-year-old woman a cup with a liquid so boiling hot that she got third-degree burns from it. Those are so serious they damage all 3 layers of your skin and potentially cause permanent damage to muscles, tendons, and ligaments as well, not to mention the intense pain and suffering. Anyone can argue that lawsuits could be frivolous and potentially preventable. However, the fact remains that a woman was permanently hurt by someone's product, and the legal system decided she deserved to be awarded for that. And by the way, $2.86 million isn't even close to the biggest lawsuit payouts in recent history. Tiger Woods has been in some heated competitions for some very big paychecks, but the biggest check in Tiger's life happened in the courtroom, not the golf course. You might remember the shocking revelation, but not the details. Tiger Woods was married to Ellen Nordegren for 6 years, from 2004 to 2010. She was a former model, and the two of them had 2 children during their time together. But infidelity broke the marriage apart, and it was a messy public divorce thanks to a car accident and a 911 call. It came to light that Woods was indeed being unfaithful to Nordegren with potentially as many as 20 other women. Needless to say, the relationship was not going to be repaired. In the divorce, Nordegren was represented partly by her sister, and after all was said and done, estimates guessed that the settlement for Nordegren included full custody of their children and as much as $750 million. Now that is a serious check. As the owner of Fox News, billionaire Rupert Murdoch has been sued by a lot of people, and the network has paid many settlements. But one of the biggest settlements he ever paid wasn't for something that was said on the news, it was something he did in private. Rupert Murdoch married Anna Maria Torv in 1967, and the two of them remained married for 32 years until 1999. She had been a journalist, a novelist, and mother of the 3 children she and Rupert had together. But after she discovered that Murdoch had cheated on her with socialite Wendy Deng, the marriage was over. But the division of assets was just beginning. Murdoch was worth a lot, and Torv could have gotten a full half of it under California law. But she settled for a smaller amount, which still amounted to a whopping $1.7 billion. And 2 weeks after the divorce, Murdoch married Wendy Deng, who he had cheated on Torv with, and who he later divorced after she allegedly cheated on him with British Prime Minister Tony Blair. Everyone wants to lose weight easily, but most people don't want to lose the use of their heart and lungs, and that's exactly what happened for people who used a medicine called fen-phen. Fen-phen is the nickname of 2 drugs sold in combination in the 1990s to help people lose weight. It did help people lose weight, but that was just the beginning of its effects. It turns out that one of the drugs caused serious heart valve problems and pulmonary hypertension, while the other drug caused high blood pressure and an elevated heart rate. When combined, the result was a health nightmare and potentially deadly. The product was pulled from the market in 1997, but by then a lot of damage had been done. There were thousands of victims in a massive class action lawsuit. In the end, fen-phen's creators ended up paying over $3.75 billion in damages, and new rules were put in place to protect consumers from other similarly dangerous drugs. The opioid crisis is still ravaging many parts of the United States and other places, and one company, Purdue Pharma, was held at least partially responsible legally for creating that crisis. Purdue Pharma was the company that created and marketed OxyContin, the brand name for a type of oxycodone, a powerful opioid pain reliever. The product didn't just work to help deal with pain, it worked too well, creating a severe addiction in many of its users. And because the company profited from the prescriptions, it pushed for more and more doctors to prescribe it. What was marketed as a solution to chronic pain instead became a devastating new drug epidemic that swallowed up whole communities. Because of their direct involvement in bringing it about, many lawsuits have targeted Purdue Pharma, and while there are still more cases ongoing, the company has already paid out more than $6 billion. Remember Enron? Most people remember the name more than they remember the scandal, but it was one of the most expensive scandals in big business history. Enron was an energy services company headquartered in Houston that was created in the mid-1980s, and it didn't take long for certain members of the company to start exaggerating the value of the company. Another word for that is fraud. They started to falsely inflate their numbers and to hide debts and losses in offshore accounts that were kept off the books. This false accounting made the company look hugely successful, with Forbes voting it America's most innovative company for 6 years, from 1996 to 2001. But then in 2001, the deceptive practices came to light, the stock price plummeted, and the company declared a bankruptcy that resulted in $11 billion in shareholder losses. Now, those shareholders went after the company to recoup their losses. And while they didn't get it all back, they did get a whopping $7.2 billion settlement. If a car company has bragged about how clean and efficient their cars were for the environment, you might expect that they're exaggerating a bit, right? But what if they were outright lying instead? What if they not only lied about the efficiency of their cars, but they falsified official environmental testing records to cover it up? Well, you don't have to wonder, because that's exactly what Volkswagen did. The Environmental Protection Agency discovered their secret. They had programmed their engine emissions controls to only activate when they were being environmentally tested. They passed those tests, but then when they went out on the road, they were 40 times worse than in the tests. When the lawsuits began, even more was revealed. The company had asked engineers to design machines specifically to fool the EPA and deliberately concealed the truth about it. The lawsuit was settled with Volkswagen required to buy back cars and offer compensation. All in all, the scandal cost Volkswagen over $33 billion in fines, penalties, and buybacks. Anyone who understands the process of drilling for oil at the bottom of the ocean could guess that it was only a matter of time before a huge and disastrous oil leak would devastate the local environment. And that's exactly what happened to the Gulf of Mexico when the Deepwater Horizon oil rig exploded, causing an oil leak from the drilling that lasted for 87 days, nearly 3 months. 11 people were killed from the oil rig explosion, and the environmental damage was incalculable. The lawsuits came quickly and understandably. The loss of human and marine life, the devastation of the environment, and the fact that none of the safety protocols in place prevented this long and drawn-out disaster. In the end, BP, the owner of the Deepwater Horizon, paid out almost 400,000 claims for compensation that totaled over $65 billion. Sometimes the enormous numbers that people get in lawsuits seem like outrageous amounts that no one could possibly deserve for the situation they've been through. And sure, sometimes that's true. But in many cases, the court is the only one who can make sure enormous companies pay for the damage that they cause. Someone has to hold companies accountable for lying to the public, creating dangerous situations through faulty or deceptive products, or for causing unreasonable financial loss because of incompetence or fraud. When that happens, the punishment needs to fit the crime. Most big companies break the law because they want to make more money, so the only thing that makes them reconsider is taking that money and more away from them. That's it for this episode of No Way That's Legal. For more eye-opening and possibly infuriating stories about the intersection of the real world and the legal world, be sure to like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.